of your bloodstream that you're like, why is nobody else doing this? And oh my God, somebody's going to do it before I get the funding to do it myself.
That was never really our concern. One, because nobody else was doing it. So we thought, okay, what are the chances that some other group is going to land on this exact thing right now? But then we actually got to a point where we had built so much technology to make it possible, and we understood the problem and how the solution was going to have to work, that we're like, okay, even if somebody decides to start this up right now, we know what walls they're going to hit, and we know that there's at least there will be a time clock. Right. And we know that right now, for example, if we look at other potential competitors, we know that we're at least a year ahead of anybody that would start. So that means if they start today and they do everything right and get to where we're at, we're going to be a year further ahead ourselves. Mm-hmm. So we're kind of got this 1 year head start. But in the early days, we still didn't think of ourselves as a company. And I recommend this as well. Until you raise money or start thinking about raising money, you shouldn't think of yourself as a company. You should think of yourself as a project or an experiment, just checking those boxes.
Yeah. That's a great mindset.
Because then you can quit.
Yeah.
Like you need to be able to walk away if it's not real.
That's hard. I mean, for you, where was your threshold? Let's just say like in that first 2 years, right? Did you have something in the back of your mind, some sort of threshold of, okay, whether it was time or money or resources, what was that threshold for you where you were like, okay, if we hit this, we're out. Like we just need to hang up our hat.
If we couldn't get a specific helpful review out of you in 3 clicks, we were game over. So we knew that everything came down to what is the friction of this review process. So that, again, was why the whole first year, maybe even year and a half, was all about throwing people at the review process and iterating on that, because we wanted to get something as specific as this article was speculative, or this article had a gender bias, or whatever the specific thing you found wrong with the article was. We wanted to get that out of you in less than 3 clicks. And it wasn't until we proved that worked that we committed to going forward.
Got it. Okay, so you're sitting down in front of your computer, you Chase, and you're going through the process. You're going to show me, like, I want to do this. I'm super stoked about this. I'm not confident I would be a great reviewer, to be quite honest, because I'm not sure that but I think over time, as I start diving in, like, this is going to be a personal project for me. But you as a reviewer, let's just say you're going on as a consumer. What is your process? Because like you said, you have, there's a couple different ways that you can experience this. So tell me, as you sit down, how would you experience it?
So first there's 3 different ways to experience the product. One is the website, credder.com, which is the kind of our news aggregator, which you could compare to every other news aggregator. But the benefit with us is that we overlay these ratings on top of the content and for the authors and outlets. So, just another news aggregator where we pull articles from everywhere online and you can get your news, but with the benefit of having these ratings. The other way is through our Chrome extension, which means if you download the extension once, you now have Credder in your browser, which means you can never come back to Credder again. Just go get your news anywhere you'd like or normally would get it. And as soon as you land on an article, we'll do a search of our database to see if we have a rating for that article, author, and outlet. And if we have any rating information, we'll pop that up really quickly for you so you know what you just landed on and know if it's worth, actually taking the time to read. And
it's just a matter of me opening my browser. I don't have to open the browser and then click on the...
No, yeah, whatever. Right. So right now it's just for Chrome. Yeah, so right now it's just for Chrome. So you just add the extension once, which means you just hit a button and it downloads. And then you just go about your natural experience. And you can actually review the articles through the browser there too. I tend to use, when I sit down, Credder as my news gathering site. So when I want news, I'll go there because anybody can post any article too. So it's not just articles that we pull, it's our users are posting articles that they think are exciting or relevant. And so I'll get my news there. What I do is I'll find a headline that interests me. I'll click on it. Before I start reading, I'll see if anybody reviewed it and see what the ratings are of the author and outlet. And then if I say, okay, yeah, I'm going to keep going. And that's really what Credder's about, is giving you that extra step where you're like, is this really worth your time? Do you really want to send your traffic there and spend the next 10, 15 minutes reading this article? Yes. And so then I'll read the article. And then when I'm done, I review it right there back on the site and, review the article and then just go and find another article if I'm still, which I usually am because I'm an absolute news junkie.
Have you always been a news junkie?
Yeah. I think I really turned it on after 9/11 because that really just woke me up to all things, information and media and was like, whoa. Because I remember skipping school to sit home and watch the news. And so that was the day I really understood how important the news is because we're all like sitting around waiting, listening, hoping to hear information. And it's like, oh, if nobody was telling us this information, like we would just have never known. Chaos right now. Yep. So sitting around and prioritizing the news that day woke me up to like, oh, there's a way where information reaches us and there are gatekeepers. And then that's when I really started going down the rabbit hole.
Do you still read a paper newspaper?
No, I never did though.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Oh, me neither, but not because it was stupid. It was because mostly I hated getting my fingers all black every time I opened the newspaper. Not that that's a great reason. Yeah. Is there a way? I'm geeking out a little bit about this because I'm thinking, so LinkedIn. Like right now in business is I can see what's happening. It's not going to be very long before it jumps the shark, I think, but it's a great place where people who are more interested in what Instagram has to offer, obviously what Facebook has to offer, I think. But they're trying to build their businesses and people at least my age are trying to figure out like how am I going to switch over to LinkedIn and so what I've started doing is those, you were talking about the moments where people just like scrolling through their feed. I found recently that I'm so disinterested in even Instagram, and Instagram's never been a business thing for me, but I'm getting disinterested and I'm starting to scroll mindlessly. So I thought for every time that I want to open Insta, I'm going to open LinkedIn instead and do something at least that's going to try and build my brand. And I'm noticing what's happening is a lot of people are probably thinking the same way and they don't know what to put on there. They're not writing organic articles. They're just sharing things. Is there a future in which Credder is somehow, and I don't even know what this would look like, but you're using that as LinkedIn as a platform to help grow Credder? Other than you personally being like, hey, here's Credder and this is why you should use it. Like, is there some sort of, I don't know what I want to say.
Yeah, no, I gotcha.
Plug in.
So first off, we should be on every platform. We should be kind of what's called platform agnostic. If it helps grow our platform and our mission, then we should be using it. And we don't do as good a job with that as we should. And a big factor in that is just that we're a smaller team. And so our priorities are a lot around product and, B2C and B2B and that kind of thing. One thing that Credder could eventually do is kind of, when you look at the Netflix model, first they're hosting everybody else's content, right? So in a way, they're like a streaming aggregator. And right now we're a news aggregator. But what Netflix eventually did is they took all the learnings, all that insight that they had from people using their platform and used it to actually start creating original content.
Which is very good. Their content is great.
It's great because they have all the information. They already know who people's favorite actors are, who people's favorite directors are. They have they know where the clicks are going, right? They know where the traffic's going. So they have all the insights. Also, people are like voting on, I like this. No, I didn't like this. Add it to my list, remove it from my list. Yeah. That kind of thing. And they see.
I never even thought about that's why they did it.
Oh, yeah. They know when you're binging and which types of shows or movies you binge. So they have a huge resource of the data that they can then use to deploy against their own production company. And that's what they've done very successfully. Obviously, I think they even won some Oscars this year and some nominations last time around. That is something that Credder could eventually do. We are going to know first who the most trusted authors and outlets are, which articles, which topics people are finding the most engaging, which ones they're reading the most. So we might eventually have a strategic advantage in becoming our own publisher and starting to put more and more of our own original content on the site.
Right.
Now, we would, of course, allow people to review Credder articles or Credder content
Right.
in the same way that they would review anybody else's. But the idea is that we might eventually be able to create our own original reporting, our own journalism, and that would be a very interesting route for us to go to become a publisher ourselves.
Okay, I'm just going to say, if I were the investor and you did all of the stuff that you just told me about, like how we built it and all of the reviews and all the stuff, and I'm like on the fence, and then you throw that at me, I'm like, I'm in. I'm in. Like, who wouldn't be in if they think about it in the context of the Netflix model?
Yeah, the challenge in the I trust me, I try to sell investors all the time, and we actually do a great job. But the media space is challenging because a lot of them look at Credder and they say, wait, you guys are jumping into a dying business model, a dying space. Journalism is dying.
Right.
And you're saying you guys want to go head first in there? And what they don't necessarily all get at first is that the ship that journalism is in now is dying and sinking. But what we're doing is we're building the next ship that they're all eventually going to have to jump ship. Mm-hmm. And we're building that next ship where the authors will have their own reputations. The audiences will be able to give a one-time or monthly recurring donation to the authors and outlets they like best, like a Patreon for media, and all these things around the ratings for the best possible experience for the news consumers, all under one roof. So when they listen to you explain it that way, even if they're not passionate about solving the problem, which many people are, then they see, oh wow, this really is a viable business.
Totally. Interesting. One of the things that, here at Keller, I've had a lot of events and we tried to promote not only what's happening within the space and the people and the work that they're doing, but how that translates to economic development in Sonoma County specifically, right? Because that's where we are. And one of the events that we did was with the Sonoma County Bureau of Tourism. And it was when they were rebranding, they were announcing their rebrand of Life Opens Up. And anyway, so one of the statistics that I learned in this process was that by the year 2030, 50% of Sonoma County workers will be independent workers in one form or another. And that's just the statistic for Sonoma County. And I know it's very broad throughout the country. And so when you talk about being able to support journalism and in the way that you're supporting the journalists themselves and they're growing, I have to imagine, I don't know what the statistic is specifically, but I know it's true that independent working is a thing throughout the country and is going to continue to grow. And it's a great way for an independent journalist to be able to say that my career is not over, right? I don't have to be, with this big brand, with this big news outlet or whatever. I can still do good work. And you guys are offering a platform for that to be a possibility, which I think is, the more romantic version of what Credder can do. So congrats on that.
Yeah, not only that piece of the puzzle, but also what else happens when news moves online is not just that, the revenue models change, but now anybody can produce content. So in a world, in a future, which we know we're already heading towards, where anybody can write articles on Medium or their own blog or anywhere, kids, they, however young, are starting blogs and they can try to build followings or get content out. In a world where anybody can produce content, there has to be a way for us to determine the reputation or the quality of these different outlets.
Right.
And if we don't create that, then all of those people will never get traffic or attention because they'll never be able to signal to new readers that they're worth their time. And so readers will stick to the same mainstream, 8 to 10 outlets.
Right.
And so those 8 to 10 outlets are the ones that are going to, hate us the most. But we ultimately have the people on our side because the statistics show that trust in news and news institutions, and especially the mainstream outlets right now, are at all-time lows. And so the people are going to be on our side. So that's okay.
So in terms of credibility for now, at the stage that you're at, what are the top 3 news outlets that you would give currently? Like somebody like me, like, all right, you want to hear the real deal? Go on to Credder first and then read from, if I wanted to search, because I saw you can search by the the person who's providing the content, you can also search by the publisher, right? Or the outlet.
Yeah,